Hey guys, we just got out of A Star Is Born, the new 2018 remake, and this is my buddy Corton, and I'm Jared, as always. If any of you guys have seen my other reviews of A Star Is Born, you know that the first one came out in 1937, and this is the third remake, and it was pretty good.
I haven't seen any of the originals, so this one's my favorite.
Oh. So, what did you think of this film?
I thought it was pretty good. I feel like it accomplished a lot, but at the same time it had a slower pace, and that really worked for these small moments because you feel like you know everything about these people within the span of just 2 hours. And Lady Gaga especially just sells her character as Allie.
Oh my god.
You love her.
Lady Gaga was so good in this movie. That's probably what we're going to be talking about most of this review is
Yes.
Lady Gaga's performance was just, it's as good as, like, the critics are saying, because, like, I mean, the movie's just getting praise everywhere, but everyone's talking about Lady Gaga's performance, and I was just blown away by her this entire time.
Yeah.
I've never seen her act before. Like, didn't she do, was it, American Horror Story? Is that where she got started or something?
She was in American Horror Story. I think it was like season 4 or 5 or something, but I
never seen it, but, like, man, she was really good in this movie, and I want to see her in other stuff. So if you don't know the story, it's about this singer, it's about the singer played by Bradley Cooper who finds this young woman who's also a singer in a nightclub of sorts or something, and they fall in love, and eventually she begins a singing career as well, and kind of begins to, I don't know, succeed even him.
overshadow.
Yeah, overshadow him. I would call this is the third remake, but honestly I wouldn't call it a remake of the original, because the first two movies are about movie stars and stuff, whereas the 1976 Barbra Streisand one was about the music world, and so basically this is just a way better remake than that movie. Oh my gosh, like, I could just tell you, like, all the stuff in this movie where I'm like, I've seen that before, but it was done better. Oh my gosh. Like, it was really, of course, like, you hadn't seen any of them before, so I was kind of, like, I'd be interested if I hadn't seen all of them, seeing how I would see the movie differently, but, like, it was really kind of weird. I was like, well, I've seen this movie 3 times already, and this is my 4th, and I'm like, well, I've seen that before. But it was done a little differently. But honestly, I really liked some of the changes they did with this movie, because I don't mean to be talking so much, man, but what I really liked was just how well, in all 3 other versions of the film, Jackson Maine, the Bradley Cooper character, he kind of he's a drunk in every one of them, but especially in the first 2, it's very bumbling. It's kind of like a bumbling idiot kind of thing. It's more like, oh, he's drunk, how funny is that, in a way. Like, it's not taken very seriously, and I think that has to do with, you know, like, well, 1930s and 50s, and then the 70s, it's more like, I think I told you when I watched the movie, I was like, Chris Christopherson in that movie is kind of a dick in the beginning of the movie, and then as the movie, oh, well, we're in the dark now. Hold on, let me, okay, doing the Brad Jones thing. So, yeah, where was I? So, yeah, Chris Christopherson was a dick in the beginning of that movie, and he became a more likable person, whereas the complete opposite happens in this movie. Bradley Cooper, man, he is so likable at the beginning of this movie, I thought at least. Yeah. He's charming. Oh my god, he's so charming. But, like, as the movie goes on, like, I hated this guy by the end.
He was just awful.
But, like,
watching him just evolve into something I didn't like, just really, that was hard, though. I think it was part of his performance was great, it was hard watching him become less likable, because he did such a good job.
Because, like, it's not like Bradley Cooper becomes more unlikable, it's the character, and it's very deliberate, like, just, some of the stuff he does, I might spoil a little bit of this, so, yeah. If you're gonna continue with this review, just know that I'm gonna spoil everything. I don't even care. I really love this movie. So, what scene really got me in this film is during the Grammys. Because, okay, so in every single version, they do a version of that. In the first two films, it's at the Oscars. She wins best actress. And then every time they do this, in every version, which it's the Grammys and the Barbra Streisand one, it's so hard to watch. It's painful, like, and in a good way. It's just painful to watch because you're just seeing this guy act like a complete idiot on stage because he's been drinking a bunch, and it's embarrassing. Like, you have secondhand embarrassment. Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I feel so bad for this fictional character getting this award because her husband's just, and this one, I think it was even worse in this one, and what was really weird is the other films, he blabs a lot, like, during it, and makes a complete spectacle. In the first two films, it's very, like, stagey, where, like, because, you know, like, in film, you have to contain yourself to, you know, what's in the camera, but, like, he's just, like, flinging his arms everywhere, making a huge spectacle. But here it's more subtle, and I think even more effective.
It was definitely hard to sit through. Like, if this were like a Blu-ray or DVD, I'd be pausing it, just like pulling my hair, like, don't continue, but then it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it just builds up, and you're definitely, like, it's not even really, like, necessarily like a big moment, like a life or death thing, but you're still on the edge of your seat, like, where is this going to go, when is this going to stop, and you just feel...
It just kept going, and I think that scene really works with, the pacing in the film, so maybe we should talk a little bit about that. I don't know if you had the same problem. I thought the film was had some pacing issues where things were a little too slow at times.
I felt that in the beginning, but by the time I got into like sort of like the rhythm of the movie, it didn't bother me. I actually wasn't too big a fan of the cinematography.
Really?
Yeah.
I think you said it was like a documentary.
Yeah, it
or
was
something.
sort of like a documentary.
Okay, like, that's probably a carryover from trying to do the 1976 film, because that movie is, let's see, I think I said in my review that the cinematography was very awkward, where it felt kind of like a documentary, and so it felt kind of cheap. I mean, this film doesn't feel cheap with the cinematography, but it is it's kind of bizarre. And Bradley Cooper, being a first-time director, he has a fascination with, well, slow-mo, as well as Lady Gaga's face.
There were so many close-ups in this film, and especially in scenes where it worked, and especially in scenes where it didn't. And I was like, I want to see where you're at. I need to not be so close to these people. This isn't like a shaky cam.
Yeah, because, okay, like, the first time I really noticed it was, there's this scene early on, when Bradley Cooper meets Lady Gaga in the bar, and, they're talking about her nose or something, and, it's very kind of awkward. I don't know, like, he just goes up to her and does this with her nose, and Lady Gaga gives this, like, little, like, it's not a wink, but it feels like a wink to the camera, where it's, like, admiring her. Like, I feel like a lot of shots in this film admire Lady Gaga, which, I mean, that's okay.
Yeah.
But, so, I don't know, yeah. So, she's great. Bradley Cooper is really good as well. And then there's good old Sam Elliot.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, okay. I want to say the last thing I've seen Sam Elliot in, which I haven't seen many Sam Elliot movies, but I think, like, the last thing I saw him in was the Ang Lee Hulk movie.
Last two things I saw him in was Good Dinosaur, when he plays a grumpy T-Rex. Yeah, and also where my mom watches The Ranch on Netflix.
Oh, I have seen him in that. Okay, yeah, I saw a little bit of that show, and but oh my god, he's so damn good in this movie. Yep. Like, I don't know, okay, so Sam Elliot plays Bradley Cooper's brother in the film, and it's like, they kind of call attention to it. There's even a line in the movie where, like, he says maybe we could have gone on the road or something, where, like, would be like a father and son group. I was like, well, I'm glad you noticed that. It makes me wonder if they cast Sam Elliot in the film, and then, like, that was something that was added later on.
That's what I was thinking.
Like, oh, he has some really good scenes in this film. All of them have to do with just him confronting Bradley Cooper, as well as a scene with Lady Gaga, which might be my favorite scene in the film. I don't know, I just love Sam Elliot in this film, as well as, like, everyone just does such a good job in the film. And I'm surprised that this film is as good as it is. Like, this was Bradley Cooper's first film he's ever directed, and in some ways it shows a little, but like, man, he did such a good job. I think, like, I don't know, I kind of like this whole trend of actors becoming directors. Sometimes it works. I don't think it works with Angelina Jolie all the time, but I don't know. Bradley Cooper, John Krasinski, is that? Yeah. With A Quiet Place earlier this year. I love that we're having this trend of directors, and I'd love to see what he does next, because, well, this movie's probably going to get nominated for a lot of things, and he's going to have, I want to say I think he could be up for Best Director, but I don't know. I could see him up for Best Actor.
Yeah.
Oh,
I could definitely see that.
Lady Gaga. If she doesn't win, that will shock me. That, like, this is like that year when Anne Hathaway was nominated for Les Mis. It's like, well, you've seen the performance, you know she's gonna win. Yeah, she was in the movie for like 15 minutes, but yeah, she's gonna win. There's no doubt in my mind Lady Gaga will probably win. This movie will be up for Best Picture. Oh gosh, what else is there about this film? Dave Chappelle, the scene stiller that, honestly, I love his scene, but it's so random.
Yes!
Okay, you felt the same way. Okay, so, Dave Chappelle's in this movie, if you've seen the trailer. He's great in the film for the time he's in, but, like, okay, so, what happens in the film, Jackson Maine, Bradley Cooper's character, is at a concert, and then the next scene, he's just lying in the bushes on a random street, and it just so happens to be where one of his buddies lives, played by Dave Chappelle. And it's, I don't know, like, the scene with him's really good. It's very well acted, it's very well written, but it just makes no sense why.
It makes me wonder if Bradley Cooper and Dave Chappelle are like friends in real life, because it really feels like that role was written specifically for Dave Chappelle. Like, it had meta commentary on Dave Chappelle's career and him leaving the spotlight, being happy with where his life is now, and just, like, you know, just the somberness, like what he had in his recent stand-ups. It feels very much catered to him. And I feel like because of that, the scene goes on a lot longer than it needed to be, because I feel it doesn't add as much as maybe the amount of time it takes up thinks it did.
And he said something about there where it kind of has a lot to say about Dave Chappelle's career and stuff. And I'm like, I feel like Bradley Cooper just wanted to talk about different singers' lives, because this film with Lady Gaga is just totally, I feel like, mimicking stuff from her actual career, because, like, okay, a weird thing in the movie that I was not expecting was, so, in the 1976 film, it's not in the 54 film, but in the 1976 film, as well as this film, Jackson Maine goes to a bar where he meets the girl. It's Allie in this film, played by Lady Gaga. And it's a drag bar. And let's see. And anyway, so and they had this scene where she kind of, Lady Gaga dresses up in drag. Like, I don't know, she looks like she's dressed up in drag, and it's almost kind of some weird commentary because of the whole, like, I remember when a lot of people thought, like, Lady Gaga was a man.
Yeah.
Like, that's so clear, and I'm like, it's not subtle at all, but, like,
No.
it's definitely not trying to be. This film's trying to really do something like that. And, like, as well as the whole thing, once her career gets started, there's the whole, like, she starts wearing weird stuff.
Yeah.
Like they change her hair color.
Her style of singing completely changes.
Yes. Like, because the film, for the most part, because Jackson Maine's character is more of like a country, I'd say like contemporary country singer, and Lady Gaga is sort of like that in the, it's still in a pop type of realm, but it changes a lot, and honestly, those songs are my least favorite of the movie, and I'm like, I don't know if that was intentional, but, like...
Because there's a scene where she's on Saturday Night Live, and she performs this song about her tight ass and her jeans or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you know, she's not singing it bad, but when all the other songs in the movie are so soulful, it's kind of jarring when she's on there with all these backup dancers and, like, just, like, very, like, odd, metallic, futuristic clothing, doing just, like,
there's
different
absolutely no heart in it. And,
exactly.
And, like, that's a big theme of the movie.
I
Like,
know.
Bradley Cooper tells her something about, like, you know, like, keeping your heart in it, or, like, and it's very clear at that point. It's like, well, she's not even happy about it. But, like...
But I like that she does stand up for herself to him, though, because he doesn't, when he tells her what he thinks about her music at the current stage it's at this point in the film, he doesn't do it as a way of guidance or helping her. He honestly just uses it to kind of, like, hurt her and make her feel like, look, you're getting more famous for doing, you know, less work, and meanwhile I'm, you know, having to, you know,
which
try to support us.
Is very different from the other versions, because in this film, which is very different from the other ones, where it deals with a star's his career is just declining. It's just, he's basically at the tail end of it. But here, he seems to be doing pretty well.
Yeah.
But it's more about the actual person is just going to the lowest low. He's like, because, like, I mean, he's got a huge drinking problem, a huge drug addiction, and it takes over his life. And, I mean, which, that's how a lot of, like, stars are. Like, I mean, if you look at, like, I'll give Elvis as an example, like, because that's what popped into my head. Like, Elvis had to, like, take drugs to go to sleep, to wake up, to do his singing, and, like, it commentates on that a lot, and the film has a lot to say about, you know, drug abuse, even, like, what else?
I mean, just drug and alcohol abuse, and, you know, letting, you know, things go to your head. And also, it was kind of odd that in the beginning of the film, they have people who go up and talk to, you know, Bradley Cooper's character, Jackson Maine, and they're like, oh, can we have an autograph? Can we say hi to you? And you can tell he kind of doesn't want to, but he's calm with it. But Lady Gaga, who's never been in the spotlight before ever, snaps and punches a guy in the face.
Oh,
I loved that. And I thought that was kind of just like, because it showed not only, like, that they probably, like, stars have to deal with that a lot, but it also kind of showed just, like, Jackson Maine's a very worn down character kind of at this point. He doesn't really care too much, and just kind of like, I don't know, like he's not really happy with his lifestyle, but he just accepts it.
Oh my gosh, yes. Let's see.
My second favorite scene in the film was definitely the one where Bradley Cooper admits to Allie, Lady Gaga's character, that he is jealous. Mm-hmm. And he goes in while she's in the bath, and he's drunk, and he tells her about how he's soulless he thinks that she's become, and how he thinks that she's ugly, and it's like, you see them, like, I guess that's sort of her lowest point in the film as well, because she's still well off, and even though she really doesn't have, like, her songs aren't as heartful, she still, like, enjoys what she's doing. Like, she's not, like, unhappy to be famous, like, but you can tell she's definitely not as happy as she once was, and it's kind of the lowest point where he's, like, having to hurt his wife just to feel good about himself, telling her that he's not, he's not proud of her, that she's ugly and different than what he thinks she should be, and then, she starts to get onto him about how she really thinks about him and his drinking problem, and they just kind of go back and forth at each other, and I mean, it's really just like...
That was another scene that was really hard to watch, and I think... That was really the scene where I think I decided, I was like, I don't like you right now at
yes.
all. Oh, man, Bradley Cooper's so good in this film. Let's see, what am I trying to say? I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm tired, man. Like, I've been up for a while, but, let's see. I think... Let's talk about the singing a little bit. Okay, so we said that it has this country vibe to it, and Lady Gaga is, of course, amazing. Okay, like, I'm just gonna say this. In the last couple of years, I have become a Lady Gaga fan. Like, I don't listen to it all the time or anything, but if it's on the radio, I'm like, I listen to it, I'm like, that's really good, and she's incredible, and she actually wrote all the songs in this movie.
Really?
She wrote it with someone else, and a little bit, I think, wrote with Bradley Cooper, which, I mean, he's the director.
It listed him as, like, additional music in the credits.
Okay, and, of course, Lady Gaga's good, and the song Shallow, which is, like, kind of the main song of the film, like, is incredible. It's the one that's in the trailer, but damn, that final song, I've heard a lot of people, a friend of mine that does reviews, Larry, he said there's a song in the movie that was very, like, Whitney Houston-esque. I'm like, oh, she was channeling Whitney Houston, like, all the way in that scene. And, also, I'll eventually loop around to Bradley Cooper, but, I want to talk about that final song. So, for most of the song, that they break it up a little bit with some other scenes or shots, but for the most part, it's a single shot, like, just on her face the whole time, and they do that in the 1976 film. It's might be one of the best scenes in that movie, where, like, it's just on Barbra Streisand Streisand. I keep saying Streisand for about 8 minutes, and it does the exact same thing where, like, it starts out with a very somber song and goes into, like, more of, like, a rock ballad or something at the very end, which, even though even though, like, they don't, like, they have a lot of callbacks to the original films, because I guess you, and, like, not in, like, plot details, but more in just, like, certain things. Like, it's very clear that Bradley Cooper watched every single one of the 3 movies that came before he made this movie, especially the 76 one, which I think is better over the 1954 one. I know that one's like considered a classic. I think the 76 one's a little better. It's not much better. But anyway, I got way off topic with that. I want to talk about Bradley Cooper singing in the film. As soon as I saw that the trailer over the summer, like, it was like Lady Gaga was definitely the main selling point for this film. Like, and they knew that, because you saw the trailer, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, it's a whole build up to her singing and everything. It's very clear. I mean, she is the star that is being born in this film. As far as I know. I don't know. But, so Bradley Cooper, when he was the one that really got my attention within the trailer with his singing, and I was like, man, Bradley Cooper, you could have a singing career if you wanted to. I think you could make it. Like, I mean, he'd have to sing country, because I haven't heard him sing anything else but country.
I wouldn't want to hear him sing that Gene song.
What are you talking about? That would be the best thing ever. Oh, man. Let's see. We talked about a lot of stuff that we like in the film. I think I talked about how I didn't care much for some of the pacing. Some of it really worked. I think, like, you needed a lot of slower... Sometimes the film needed to slow down a little bit. But, I don't know. I like a lot about this movie.
I think one thing that helps make it feel slow is that every song they play the whole song. There may be one instance where they cut out of one, but I mean, for the most part, they play every song that you hear in this movie all the way through. And it sometimes... I didn't necessarily dislike any song, but there were some times where I was like, man, this song's a bit longer than it needs to be, because I want to kind of get back to this progression of these characters. But I also appreciate that Greatest Showman had a lot of songs that they sang all of, but there was no story in between that connected anything. It was just a series of random events I didn't care about.
Well, I'll say this. You would be really mad at the 1954 film, because that movie... Okay, so I watched, like, the extended edition of that film that's, like, 3 hours. And they add... I don't know how many songs they add, but sometimes they happen one after the other, and they play the whole song. And, you know... I mean, it's not like a Broadway musical movie, but, like, it kind of is that length. Like, they're usually around, like, 4 minutes long all the time, and it's just, like, yeah, I feel exactly the same way you felt with this. Like, sometimes the songs got a little bit in the way of, like, continuing the story, but it's... nowhere compares to, like, how it is in the 1954 film. Like, even the 76 film, which has a lot of songs in it, they're more spread out, I would say. But, like, yeah. I don't mean to bash on the 1954 film so much, but, man, it's just not a lot about it I care. Also something, let's see, with negatives, I don't have too many. I feel like we talked about them.
Mhm.
But,
Cinematography is not my favorite. I mean, it wasn't horrible or anything, but one thing I noticed is I feel like all movie concerts are shot the exact same way. Like, here's a singer and a light and a microphone. Oh, now the light's blocked by the microphone. Oh, now the light's there again. Like, there's always like, I don't know why, but I feel like they always use that one shot of a singer, light right there, and there's nothing interesting looking about them.
I liked some of the time when, like, you would see, like, backstage, it was, like, in red.
That was
and,
really
like,
cool.
it would contrast with, like, the white on the stage. Like, I liked stuff like that, but, I mean...
My favorite scene in the film was whenever Bradley Cooper brings Lady Gaga to the first concert, and she gets up on stage and sings, because... I think it's the best shot probably of all the full concerts, other than the last song. Of all the concerts, the best shot. But not only that, the reason it's my favorite scene is because of how real and genuine it feels. Because she's up there and her voice shakes a couple times. Like, not a lot, but like just a couple times it kind of shakes when she's nervous. And the way she moves, it's not like a professional dancer or even really like, it's awkward, but it's real. And it's like, look at her putting herself out there. And Bradley Cooper's there, and he's this great guy encouraging her to keep going, and he's helping her, and they're doing it so good together.
You want to know something? What makes it even more real?
What?
Lady Gaga made it mandatory, or she wanted them to actually sing on set, so you're hearing the real on-set audio the whole time.
That's
and
really cool.
It really feels like it. It feels like I'm watching a natural performance through everything. Like, you hear every time their voice cracks sometimes. You just get every ounce. And although I will say something I was disappointed about with this film. There was no scene where Bradley Cooper goes all Chris Christopherson and rides a motorcycle up on stage and then jumps off the stage in slow motion, which would have been perfect because there's slow motion in this film. And then he, and then they later... I'm just going to be talking about other movies during this review. So, and then later on, there should have been a scene where he goes back to his place, and there's a helicopter, and he gets a gun and starts shooting at him. I was very disappointed.
For the last song, like the beginning shot of the last song is Lady Gaga lonely walking out on the stage. There's this like baby blue light shining on her, and there's this humongous, gorgeous theater, 2 rows of just like, or levels of people. And watching that, I was like, I'm waiting for the ghost of Dennis Quaid from I Can Only Imagine to show up.
Oh my gosh, how did I know you were going to do that?
That's immediately what I thought when I saw that shot. I'm like, man, this is I Can Only Imagine.
Ghost of Bradley Cooper.
Ghost of Bradley Cooper's there. Gives her a thumbs up.
Oh man, I'd love that. Oh man. Okay, so going back to something we talked about, how I'm all over the place in this, but there's just, I think, randomly all the time. So we talked about how Dave Chappelle was like very, like, he was really good in it, and but like it felt out of place. I'll tell you, like, an actor that 100% felt weird and out of place was Alec Baldwin in this movie. That was just kinda there.
He said like 2 things and then leaves. Hey, this Saturday Night Live, I'm Alec Baldwin, there's a band. And he just walks off.
Like, it makes me wonder, it's like, man, they could have gotten anyone, but man, they got Alec Baldwin.
It makes it even better because they could have just gotten no one too, because most of that scene really focuses on Bradley Cooper off stage, and they could have really just stuck with that and like had the band performing already.
And like, it kind of feels awkward because, okay, the way this movie feels, it feels like it, I mean, not exactly, but it's like because it's a story that's been told a bunch, it's almost like a fairy tale kind of story in a way. Like, it's a story that's passed down and everything and retold in different ways. And in my opinion, like, the movie feels like it takes place within its own reality in a way. And then when you see, like, Alec Baldwin playing Alec Baldwin,
Yeah, that was
it's kind of distracting, because it's like, well, then, does Lady Gaga exist in this universe then? Does Dave Chappelle exist in this universe? Like, I mean, I'm not gonna go, that's not a detriment to the movie or anything, but it's just something really funny to think about. I'm like, man, I wonder if, like, if Allie and Lady Gaga ever met, that might be, like, the most awkward thing ever. That's the sequel I want to see. I want to see Lady Gaga in a dual role, playing herself and Allie. I'd watch it.
One actor that didn't necessarily feel out of place with the role they had, but surprised me still, was Andrew Dice Clay as Lady Gaga's dad.
She don't have a mom in this movie.
He's the role of both mother and father.
Now,
but I don't like Andrew Dice Clay as a person. Don't like him. I don't think his stand-up's all that funny. There's a couple things that are amusing, but I mean, I just don't like him. And I'm not gonna lie, I would use the words sweet and soft-spoken to describe him in this movie.
Oh my gosh, yes. Like, man, I don't know. Bradley Cooper did such a good job of just getting just the best performances he could out of his actors. And he did a good job at directing himself as well. Like, this is one of the best films I've seen this year. I know this was my most anticipated film in this year. And is it my favorite film of this year? I mean, it's not my favorite film of this year, but this is going to be on my top 10. Like, it's going to be very high on my top 10. Like, this is just a great film, and I think I will say it's the best version of this story. It still has some problems to it, but I don't know, like, this one just, I feel like this one could be remembered, because, like, everyone talks about how A Star is Born, the 1954 one, is usually considered the classic one, but it's like, I don't hear anyone talk about it. Like, I feel like, I mean, maybe not now, but I feel like maybe people would talk about this one a little bit more. Like, it's better than that film. It's better than the 76th one. 76 one, not the 76th one. Although, like, I'd watch 76 versions of this film.
I know, we'll be back in this exact car, in this exact parking space next to this exact mall, in 40 years reviewing the next one.
Like, man, I'm just wondering now, it's like, well, this has been made 4 times now. It's like, well, when's the next one gonna be? Okay, so we had the 1937 one, we had the 1954 one, we had the 76 one, and now 2018. So we got to have one of them in the next 20, 30 years. So I'll be there, and I don't know, maybe that one will be even better. I don't know. But
maybe that one will bring back Bradley Cooper as a ghost.
Oh, man. So yeah, I definitely recommend this movie. I haven't seen Venom yet, but I say it's probably a lot better. So yeah, don't be afraid to see this movie if you're not into romances or anything. It's a romance, but it's a real human story with some good human emotions, some just terrific acting, and I think you'll get a lot out of this film. Like, I really did. I cried. I don't know if he cried, but I cried.
I fumed. I got mad. I don't like being emotional.
You're like this movie, like Jared. Like, after this camera goes off, I'm just gonna tell you, this film was the worst thing I have seen in my life.
There's one character, I'm not even gonna talk about him, I hate him, and I hope he dies.
Oh my god!
I hope he has the motorcycle death. I hope he gets that.
I know exactly what character you're talking about. That is another complaint I will say about this film. This is one part where I won't go into spoilers, but like, there's a certain character that does something really awful that leads to something awful, and he...
Not only is it unpleasant, but it kind of like... I feel like that scene with that character honestly felt kind of rushed too. It was like, woo!
That scene was like that.
It's like 3 minutes, and it sets the entire rest of the film in motion.
That character was not in either of them. In fact, I'm going to completely reverse what I said and say it. So, yeah. The guy in the film that, like, what you were saying, that we hate exactly so much, he, there's usually in the other versions, I can't remember if it's in the 76 one, but usually what happens in the film, Bradley Cooper's character he plays usually overhears the female character saying that, like, oh, maybe I should go off tour, or maybe I should quit acting or something, and that really upsets him.
Yeah.
So, because I keep wanting to talk about this film and I'm spoiling it even more, you probably shouldn't even continue, but yeah, Bradley Cooper dies, and I will say that the death scene, it's one of those things, it's like, the build-up was better than the payoff, I think, because there wasn't any payoff to that scene, really.
The only thing I didn't like about the build-up was the hat part. I was like, I mean, I guess he's supposed to be like he's contemplating life or
Everyone's
something.
watching this and they're like, well, what are they talking about? But like, oh well. The
hat was the only thing that really took me out of it. The rest was fine, but that hat, I was like, he's just like...
I will say, like, I like it more than the 76 death, but I will say, and I'll even praise the 54 movie for this, because it does the exact same thing. I think the death scene of the lead male character is really good in those first two films, because he just opens the door, walks out on Malibu Beach, and drowns himself. It's a and in both movies, it's the most beautiful sunset you'll ever see in your life, and you're just watching a guy drown. Whereas, like, okay, like, this movie kind of does what the 76 version does, except everything it does is better. But, like, because, like, the 76 version, the death scene is kind of... He's driving drunk, and it's not as interesting, like, why he's driving drunk. Because, okay, so I think it was he was going to go meet a friend at the airport. He wasn't meeting Barbra Streisand, he was leaving Barbra Streisand who is in bed with him, and he leaves her to go meet a friend, and then he's just driving recklessly and wrecks. It's very just not good. But like here in this version, it's like I feel like in that scene when he gets in the car, I feel like at there was a point where he was like maybe going to go to Lady Gaga's performance. Like, I feel like that. I mean, I may be reading too much into it, but like, I feel like with his character, I feel like he was going to, and then it's just. But something else I like about this film, and looking at the other films as a whole, of course you can't say anything about this, you ain't seen them. You should eventually see them all, especially the 37 one, because I recommend that one a lot. I like that because each one, of course, you know, you have the 54 and 76 remakes, and my biggest problem with the 54 one was that it was just 100% a remake of the first one, down to they used the exact same dialogue for most of the movie. I mean, they add some because, you know, it's 3 hours and the first one's 2. And they do some of that still in the 76 film, but what I like about this film is it definitely, it's like, yeah, it's a remake, but it definitely feels like its own movie. Like, it doesn't, like, I don't think there is a single line in this movie like that. There's like a bunch of like iconic lines from the first one that they reuse in the second and even the third film, but like there's not really any like of those lines in this film. It feels like its own dialogue, which I praise, because that was my biggest problem with the 54 one. And the 76 one, I like it a little bit more because at least like the plot is a little bit different, or not the plot, but the whole setup is a little bit different, with like it being about singing rather than acting. And this is the definitive version of the singing. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about this. You got anything else?
I have to pee.
Oh, well, get out of my car.
You got any final rating?
Oh, final rating of this film. Okay. Man, I want to give this a 9. I want to give this a 9 so bad. I might, by the end, give this 9. If I need to think about it a little bit more. But as it stands, I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, same.
It's a really good film, and just there's a little mishaps here and there, but I don't think they don't ruin the film for me at all.
They don't hinder my enjoyment of it.
Oh yeah, it's a very good film. It's very well made.
Yeah,
extremely well made. Well directed, well acted. Just, yeah, it's a great film, and I mean, I like seeing movies with my parents. I might tell mom and dad to like go and see it with me, because I would see this movie again, like, and again, maybe, I don't know, but yeah, that's all I got to say. So is that all? Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching this review. I rambled on a lot. We all did. And
we all did.
We all did.
Good team effort.
But yeah, if you stayed this long, that's cool too. But thanks for watching this. We might do this again sometime. This was actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway guys, that's all I got for you. So as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next review. Bye.